The courtyard that waited for him. The morning Samuel Reed came home after 22 years. The first thing he saw was his mother's blue dress, hanging on the clothesline. She had been dead for 11 days. The dress moved gently in the warm morning wind, as if someone had just washed it, wrung it by hand, and left it there to dry beneath the wisteria. For a long moment, Samuel stood at the old wooden gate and could not breathe. The courtyard looked exactly as it had in his memory. The stone table beneath the purple flowers, the wicker chair by the wall, the chipped blue teacup his mother always used, the black bicycle leaning near the back door, the clothesline stretching from the house to the lemon tree, carrying shirts, towels, and that one blue dress, lifted by the wind like a ghost that had not yet learned it was gone. Samuel had crossed deserts. He had slept through artillery fire. He had held men together with bandages, prayers, and trembling hands, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of his mother's dress in the morning light. Her name was Anna Reed. To the town of Bell, she had been the quiet woman in the old courtyard, the one who grew wisteria, repaired torn sleeves, and placed tea in front of people before they knew they needed it. To Samuel, she had been the voice he had avoided for more than 2 decades. Every birthday, she called. Every Christmas, she sent a card. Every spring, when the wisteria bloomed, she mailed him a photograph of the courtyard with one short sentence written on the back, "Still waiting for you." He never replied. Not because he did not love her. That would have been easier. He stayed away because love was the one thing he no longer knew how to touch without breaking. Samuel had left Belhaven at 19 after a fight with his father. It had been the kind of fight small towns remember, because everyone hears about it by supper. His father, Henry Reed, had been a hard man. Not cruel, exactly, just hard. He believed boys became men through silence, labor, and never asking for softness. Samuel had wanted to study music. He wanted to leave the town, see the world, and play the old piano in the train station where strangers would hear him without knowing his name. Henry called it foolish. Samuel called him afraid. His mother stood between them in the kitchen, still wearing her flower-covered apron, begging both of them to stop before the words became scars. But some words are born already sharp. Samuel said he would rather sleep in a station than become his father. Henry told him if he walked out that door, he should not expect the house to open for him again. So Samuel walked out. His mother followed him to the gate. She did not cry. That was what hurt the most. She only took his face in her hands and said, "No road is too long for a son to come home." Samuel wanted to hug her. Instead, he stepped back. "I have to go," he said. "I know. I'll call." "I know." But she knew he would not. Mothers often know the truth before their children are brave enough to say it. Samuel joined the army 2 months later. He told himself it was temporary. A way to get money for school. A way to become someone different. But war has a way of keeping people longer than they planned. He became a medic, then a good one. Then the kind of man commanders trusted in places where trust was rare. He learned how to hear fear beneath jokes. He learned how to stop blood with his hands. He learned how to sleep sitting up, and slowly, without noticing. He learned how to survive without coming home. His father died first. A heart attack in winter. Anna called him 3 times. Samuel did not answer. She left one voicemail. "Your father is gone," she said softly. "I know things were difficult, but if you can come, come. If you cannot, I will understand." He did not go. For years, he told himself it was because he was deployed. Because flights were complicated. Because grief could wait. But the truth was simpler and uglier. He was afraid. Afraid to stand beside his father's grave and feel nothing. Afraid to stand beside his mother and feel too much. After that, Anna stopped asking him to visit. She only sent the photographs. The courtyard in rain. The courtyard in summer. The stone table with 2 cups of tea. The wisteria heavy with purple flowers. Still waiting for you. Then, 11 days ago, the calls came from Belhaven again. Not from his mother this time. From a woman named Mrs. Ellis, who lived next door and had known Samuel since he was a child. Your mother passed in her sleep, she said. It was peaceful. Samuel had heard many kinds of bad news in his life. Some came with shouting. Some came with sirens. Some came with the silence after a monitor stopped beeping. But this news came with birdsong in the background. A morning somewhere. A normal day. And somehow that made it worse. He arrived too late for the funeral. Too late for the prayers. Too late to carry the coffin. Too late to hear anyone say what kind of woman she had been. Now he stood at the gate of the courtyard, holding a small suitcase in one hand and a key in the other. The house waited before him. The wisteria hung low from the wooden beams, spilling purple blossoms like memories over the stone wall. Sunlight fell through the leaves in broken golden pieces. On the table, beside the chipped blue teacup, lay a stack of books tied with twine. Samuel stepped inside. The gate creaked the same way it always had. That sound nearly broke him. The courtyard smelled of soap, flowers, dust, and warm stone. He walked to the clothesline and touched the blue dress. It was dry, clean, carefully pinned. Mrs. Ellis washed it, a voice said behind him. Samuel turned. An old woman stood near the gate, carrying a basket of bread and figs. Her hair was silver now, but he recognized her eyes. Mrs. Ellis. You remember me? I do. She looked him over, not unkindly. You look like your father when you're trying not to feel anything. Samuel let go of the dress. That obvious. To people who knew him, yes. She crossed the courtyard slowly and placed the basket on the table. Your mother asked me to keep the house ready until you came. Samuel looked at her. She knew I would. Mrs. Ellis gave a small shrug. She hoped. That was Anna's favorite way of knowing. Samuel stared at the basket. Bread, figs, a jar of honey. Things his mother would have served 2 guests. I should have come sooner, he said. Yes, Mrs. Ellis replied. There was no cruelty in it, only truth. That made it harder to bear. Then she pointed to the stack of books on the table. She left those for you. Samuel sat in the wicker chair because his legs no longer trusted him. The books were old. Some were poetry. Some were gardening journals. One was a small brown notebook with his name written on the cover. Samuel. His mother's handwriting. He opened it carefully. The first page held only one sentence. If you are reading this, then I have become part of the garden, and you have finally come home. Samuel closed his eyes. For a moment, the courtyard disappeared. He was 10 years old again, sitting at the stone table while his mother read stories aloud in the morning. Back then, she called the courtyard their little kingdom. The wisteria was the palace roof. The stone table was the royal court. The bicycle was his trusted horse. And the laundry on the line was the kingdom's flags, waving proudly in the sun. Samuel used to laugh so hard his father would shout from inside the house, telling them to quiet down. His mother would place one finger to her lips. Then she would whisper, "Some people are afraid of joy because they do not know how to hold it." Samuel had not understood that then. He did now. He opened the notebook again. My dear Samuel, I used to wonder which version of you would return. The boy who climbed the lemon tree. The young man who left angry. The soldier who learned to carry pain quietly. Or someone I had never met. Then I realized it did not matter. Every version of you is still my son. Samuel pressed his fist against his mouth. The words blurred. He kept reading. I know you stayed away because coming home became heavier every year. At first, it was probably pride. Then shame. Then, time. Time can become a wall if we let it. But walls are only frightening until someone opens a door. So this is me, opening one for you. The house is yours. The courtyard is yours. The bicycle still needs oil. The wisteria needs pruning after the first bloom. And the blue cup by the table is not to be thrown away, no matter how ugly you always said it was. Samuel almost laughed. The sound came out broken. Mrs. Ellis was still standing near the gate, watching the flowers as if giving him privacy without leaving him alone. She wrote in that book every morning, she said. After tea. For how long? Years? Samuel looked down at the notebook in his hands. Years. While he had been silent, while he had ignored calls, while he had let every road back become impossible in his mind, his mother had been sitting in this courtyard, writing to him, not begging, not blaming, just leaving a path made of words. He turned the page. Do you remember the morning flowers? You used to pick them before school and bring me, the crushed ones in your fist. You were always so proud, even when half the petals were missing. You told me flowers looked prettier when they had survived something. I think you were right. Samuel looked at the wisteria above him. Purple blossoms swayed in the light. Some petals had fallen across the table. Some lay on the stone floor, beautiful, even after falling. That evening, Samuel tried to sleep in his childhood room. But the room had become a museum of someone he no longer knew. A wooden airplane on the shelf, a faded ribbon from a school recital, a photograph of him at 12, standing beside his bicycle, with both knees scraped and a grin too large for his face. His mother had kept everything, even the things he had abandoned. At midnight, he went downstairs and sat in the courtyard. The moonlight turned the stone pale. The clothesline was empty now. Mrs. Ellis must have taken the dress inside while he was not looking. The blue cup still sat on the table. Samuel poured tea into it. He did not drink. He only watched steam rise into the night. Then he heard the gate creak. A boy stepped into the courtyard, maybe 14, then dark-haired, carrying a bicycle with a flat tire. When he saw Samuel, he froze. Sorry, the boy said quickly. I didn't know anyone was here. Samuel stood. Who are you? Leo? The boy shifted nervously. Mrs. Anna used to let me fix my bike here. She had tools in the shed. Samuel looked at the bicycle, then at the boy. You knew my mother? Leo's face changed. The way people's faces change when they are trying to hide grief. She helped me with reading, he said. After school, my dad works nights, and I'm not good with books. Samuel felt something twist in his chest. What did she teach you? Leo shrugged. Stories mostly. She said if I learned to like stories first, the reading would follow. That sounded exactly like Anna. Samuel nodded toward the shed. Tools are probably still there. Leo hesitated. Is it okay? Samuel almost said no. He wanted the courtyard silent. He wanted grief to belong only to him. But then he looked at the stone table, the books, the empty chair, the house his mother had left behind. Maybe she had not kept it alive for him alone. Yeah, he said. It's okay. Leo crossed to the shed. A few minutes later, the soft clicking of tools filled the courtyard. Samuel sat down again. For some reason, the sound made the house feel less dead. The next morning, Samuel found another notebook in the kitchen drawer, not addressed to him. This one was labeled, for anyone who needs tea. Inside were names. Mrs. Ellis, Leo, Mr. Bernard from the bakery, Grace, who lost her husband, Mila, who cried on Tuesdays, Daniel, who pretends he does not like poetry. Beside each name, Anna had written little notes. How they took their tea, what stories made them smile, which flowers they liked, which dates were hardest for them. Samuel read page after page, stunned. His mother had not lived alone. Not truly. The courtyard had been full of people he had never known. People who came with torn hems, flat tires, lonely hearts, unread books, and grief too heavy to carry through town. Anna had given them tea, flowers, silence, stories, a place to sit down. Samuel had thought his mother spent 22 years waiting for him, but she had also been saving pieces of everyone else. That afternoon, people began arriving. First Mrs. Ellis with soup, then Leo with his repaired bicycle, then a young woman named Grace, holding a small pot of rosemary, then Mr. Bernard with bread. They did not come all at once. They came gently, as if approaching a wounded animal. They stood in the courtyard, looking around at the wisteria, the stone table, the empty chair. Each of them carried a memory of Anna. She taught my daughter to read. She sat with me after my husband died. She mended my wedding dress. She told me loneliness was not a failure. She always left the gate open. Samuel listened. At first, every story hurt. Then slowly, the pain changed shape. It became fuller. Warmer, less like a knife, more like a flame. His mother had been bigger than his absence. That realization both comforted and wounded him. For the next week, Samuel tried to repair the courtyard. He oiled the bicycle chain. He scrubbed the stone table. He washed the blue cup and placed it back where it belonged. He climbed a ladder and cut away dead branches from the wisteria. The work was awkward at first. His hands were trained for emergency. Pressure bandages, tourniquets, broken bones, not gardens, not teacups, not flowers. But the courtyard did not demand perfection. It accepted effort. Every morning, he read a few pages from his mother's notebook. Every afternoon, someone stopped by. Leo came to read aloud. Mrs. Ellis came to criticize the way Samuel swept. Grace came to sit in silence. Mr. Bernard came with bread and pretended he had made two, much by mistake. Slowly, Samuel learned the rhythm of the place. Tea before questions. Silence before advice. Flowers before apologies. One evening, Leo found the old piano in the back room. It was covered with a sheet and badly out of tune. "Do you play it?" the boy asked. Samuel stood in the doorway. "Not anymore. That means yes." Samuel almost smiled. He had not touched a piano in years, not since a recreation room overseas, where he played one song for men who were too tired to sleep and too afraid to close their eyes. After that, music had felt too dangerous. Too close to the boy he had been before. Everything hardened. Leo pulled the sheet away. Dust rose into the sunlight. Samuel sat down. His fingers hovered above the keys. For a long moment, he did nothing. Then he played, only a few notes, uneven, soft. But the sound moved through the house like someone opening a window. Mrs. Ellis, who had been in the kitchen, stopped washing cups. Grace looked up from the courtyard. Leo stood very still. Samuel played the song his mother used to hum while hanging laundry. He did not remember all of it. His hands found what his mind could not. When the final note faded, no one spoke. Then Mrs. Ellis wiped her eyes with the corner of her apron. Anna would have liked that. Samuel looked down at the keys. "I should have played it for her." "Yes," she said. Again, only truth. This time, it did not destroy him. That night, Samuel found the final pages of his mother's notebook. They were dated just weeks before she died. Her handwriting was weaker there, but still steady. "My dear Samuel, if guilt has followed you here, let it sit beside you. Do not fight it all at once. Guilt is stubborn. It believes it is protecting love. But guilt is not love. Love opens the gate. Guilt keeps you standing outside it. Come in, sit down, drink the tea before it gets cold." Samuel read those lines again and again. Then he placed the notebook on the table and finally wept. Not quietly, not with dignity. He wept like the 19-year-old boy who had never turned. Back at the gate, he wept for his father, for his mother, for the phone calls he ignored, for the photographs left unanswered, for the years that could not be repaired. And when morning came, he was still in the courtyard. The sun rose through the wisteria. Purple flowers glowed above him. A petal had fallen into the blue cup. Samuel picked it up and held it in his palm. Flowers looked prettier when they had survived something. He stayed through spring, then summer, then autumn. The town stopped asking when he would leave. The courtyard became what it had been under Anna's care. A place where people came without needing an excuse. Leo read books at the stone table. Grace planted herbs near the wall. Mrs. Ellis brought too much food and denied it every time. Children left their bicycles by the gate. Old men came to argue about weather. Women came to drink tea under the flowers. Sometimes, Samuel played the piano in the late afternoon, and the music drifted through the open windows into the courtyard. He was not healed, not completely. Maybe no one ever was. But he was no longer only a man who had stayed away too long. He became the man who opened the gate in the morning. The man who kept the blue cup clean. The man who learned how everyone took their tea. 1 year after Anna's death, Samuel hung a small wooden sign outside the courtyard. The morning garden. Tea, books, and quiet. Come in if you are tired. On the first day, no one entered. On the second day, 3 people came. By the end of the month, the courtyard was full every afternoon. People brought books, flowers, letters, small griefs, large silences. Samuel did not try to fix them. He had learned from his mother that not every wound wanted a solution. Some wounds only needed a chair in the sun, a cup of tea, a place where no one hurried the heart. On the anniversary of the day he came home, Samuel took his mother's blue dress from the wardrobe. Mrs. Ellis had folded it carefully and placed lavender between the cloth. He carried it into the courtyard and hung it on the clothesline. The morning wind lifted it gently. For a moment, it looked alive again. Leo, now taller, stood beside him. "Do you miss her every day?" the boy asked. Samuel watched the dress move beneath the wisteria. "Yes." "Does it get easier?" Samuel thought for a while. Then he said, "No, but it gets wider." Leo frowned. "Wider?" "At first, grief is the whole room," Samuel said. "There is no space for anything else. Then, slowly, the room grows. The grief is still there, but so is mourning. So is bread. So is music. So are people who come through the gate." Leo nodded as if he understood more than he wanted to. Samuel looked at the stone table, at the books, at the blue cup, at the courtyard his mother had left behind like a hand reaching through time. For 22 years, he had believed coming home meant facing everything he had ruined. But he had been wrong. Coming home meant discovering that love had continued without his permission. It had grown around his absence. It had climbed the walls. It had bloomed above the table. It had waited, not as punishment, but as invitation. That evening, as the sun lowered and the courtyard filled with gold, Samuel opened Anna's notebook one last time. On the final page, she had written, "Morning flowers are picked at dusk because only then do we understand what they were worth. Do not spend the rest of your life mourning the mornings you missed. Gather what remains. There is still beauty in your hands." Samuel closed the notebook. Around him, the courtyard was alive with soft voices. Mrs. Ellis laughing near the kitchen. Leo reading aloud under the wisteria. Grace arranging flowers in a cracked glass jar. The bicycle leaning by the wall. The blue dress moving gently on the line. And for the first time in years, Samuel did not feel like a man standing outside his own life. He felt the gate open inside him. He poured tea into his mother's cup and placed it at the center of the table. Then he poured another for himself. The evening light touched the purple flowers. A petal fell softly onto the page of an open book. Samuel looked up and whispered, "I'm home." The wind moved through the courtyard. The wisteria trembled. And though no voice answered, he felt, with a certainty deeper than sound, that his mother had known. No road had been too long. No silence had been too final. No son had come home too late to be loved. Because some places do not wait to accuse us. They wait to receive us. Some flowers do not bloom to remind us of what we lost. They bloom to show us what can still return. And sometimes, when the heart has wandered for half a lifetime, all it needs is a gate left open, a chair in the sun, and one small cup of tea cooling patiently beneath the morning flowers.